All right, so the next wire, I'm not really going to be able to get a good shot with the camera down in there. It's going to be this wire right here on the wiring harness. Goes down underneath your pulley, excuse me, underneath your belt, and it mounts just underneath of your power steering pump pulley down in here. And this plug is just like the plug that was under the throttle body. You're not going to get your fingers in there to release it. You're going to need a long screwdriver. Reach in, lift up the tab, and give it a twist, and it'll pop off. That was out. Like I said, I just reached in. It sits like this underneath of your power steering pulley. I just reached in with my screwdriver, lifted this up. I don't know if you can see that. Just gave it a twist up. Once it was up, I just wiggled the screwdriver and pulled that out. There's really no way to mark the plug down underneath. So it's just one of those plugs that you're gonna maybe make an extra note, whatever. Mark the plug itself, the wire, and you're gonna have to remember that it goes underneath of the power steering pulley. Another one of those clamps holds this down. Screwdriver in there, twist, comes out. So that's as far as this way, is as far as you're going to go disconnect anything. There's no need to disconnect your fuse box. That's just going to get pulled up out of the way when we eventually pull the engine out. This wire just goes back down to nothing. Also, you don't have to worry about. So now we're at this point, we're going to get to the alternator. The alternator is just like the starter over there. You have a power cord going to it and one plug. All right, so again, just like the starter, the nut on the alternator underneath the rubber boot here. There's only one wire feeding to it, 13 millimeter nut and a washer. Take it loose. Nut and washer off. Pull the wire off. Put your nut, excuse me, your washer and your nut back on. Your plug, push, wiggle, and pull. All right, onto the injector plugs on the back side of the motor. Same thing on this coil pack plug. Again, just lightly squeeze that. Out, lift up, Don't pull on your wires like I was just doing. Grab the plug and pull on the plug. Again, we're gonna put this back in, put some tape over it so it's there when we go back to put it back together. And then this plug right here, which sits on the back side of the coil pack. It's not really a good way to get a good shot of it. All right, with that last plug on top of here, that completes the wiring harness to the top of the motor. Everything's disconnected and loose. Fuse box. All the way back around to your air box, back up behind your brake cylinder, brake master cylinder. Now we have to move down to the bottom. I say the bottom, but it's like the bottom front of the motor, and there'll be various plugs across the bottom and kind of in the middle. Some ground wires and just a couple extra plugs. So that's our next step. Get underneath and start working underneath of the wiring harness back to where this split earlier. I was telling you it split and the wire went down underneath. All right, so now we have the wiring harness completely disconnected on the top end of the motor, and we're going to start working, come back to the driver's side and work our way again now around the bottom driver's side, across the front of the car, around the back. There's a few plugs in the back, a few plugs over here with the AC pump and some other stuff, and then some more over here. Plus the 2 cooling fans up front that have to be disconnected as well. But we're going to start right back here. Underneath the starter, there's a bolt that has 3 ground wires going to it. You can see that. There it is. There's 3 ground wires to that bolt right there. That's the first part of underneath that you're going to start with. All right, so to remove those 3 ground wires off the transmission, the bolt is a 13 millimeter. After you remove it, just go ahead and put the bolt right back in the spot the hole it came out of, so you don't lose it. All right, so that's where the ground wires were. Now we're going to move across, following the wiring harness along the bottom of the the top of the K-frame, and we come to the 2 cooling fans, our next in line. We'll go ahead and mark those and pop those off. Again, just a pull tab and push down. Once you have the fans disconnected, that's it for that area. You have those tabs holding the wiring harness to the bottom. You come across, there's another one over there, but that's it for those. Continuing on with it, another plug right here to remove, and then everything else is down underneath. AC pump, and then down the side of the wheel well back towards the back firewall. All right, now that we have the fans disconnected, we're underneath the front end of the car. That right there, we have 3 more spots in the front here to remove wiring from the wiring harness. That's the engine mount. Just behind your engine mount is the plug up there. Tucked in, buried behind the hoses right here is a plug going into the air compressor, AC compressor. And then more ground wires right there. And from there, we'll be able to trace back along the K-frame to the firewall. I'll show you here. The plug to get out of the AC pump is a pain in the butt, the way they designed this one. But it plugs into the AC pump up like this. Instead of just one push tab, it has 2 pull apart tabs. So I use a flathead screwdriver, get in there, twist the one out, try and get it down a little bit, go the other side, same thing. And then with the 2 of them pulled out, you can pull down and pull that out of your AC pump. Now there's 2 ground wires going to the back here, right above the oil pan. But they're attached to the same wiring harness, so you don't really need to do anything but mark the 1 wire. Same thing, 13mm bolt on it. It's just easier to get it with a ratchet than a wrench. They do not need to be on that tight. Same thing, take the bolt out, remove the wires, and then put that bolt back in the same spot. So it'll be there when you go back. And now I pulled down, but you can see the wiring harness starts working its way back to the back of the car. So let's go over to the side, passenger side of the car. All right, so the last plug on the wiring harness to get completely freed from the engine and transmission is this one here. We're on the passenger side. This is the passenger side axle. There's a little heat shield right here with a little mount. Pop that off, pull the wire out. And the plug is tucked in right back here behind the heat shield. See that? All of your wires are completely disconnected. Now we move on to the hoses and a couple of other oddball things.